All right, ACC kickoff is in 2 weeks, I think it is. And we got Michael Felder in the bleachers on Twitter. He is with Stadium, Field of 12 podcast. I can't keep track with all of Felder's stuff. Michael, what's going on, man?
Man, I'm busy, dude. Busy. I just got back from a 2-mile little walk, and it's hot outside, man. I know y'all got the same weather I got, and goodness gracious, your boy is sweating.
Yeah, I was waiting for Joe to let me in this morning. I was about to text him and be like, please, I'm melting.
Oh, come on. You're fine now. You're fine. Here's my question, Felder.
Yes.
Is the Drake Maye hype train for Heisman candidacy and what the expectations are for North Carolina taking away or burying the idea that Jordan Travis might actually be the best quarterback in the ACC going into the year?
Yeah, I think so. I think the other part of it is Jordan Travis is surrounded by a little bit more than Drake Maye. And that's the part that's going to be really interesting. And that's not to disparage anybody that's on that UNC roster. It's more just Florida State got some dudes. Like, they got a team. Like, they got you got, what is it, Versus down there, and you got guys that can just flat out ball. So I think the big key is the difference is Drake Maye. Here's what I'll say. I think that the Drake Maye, the hype train, is about him possibly being the number 2 pick overall in the NFL draft and maybe getting invited to New York more than it is about UNC. And with Jordan Travis, it feels like Florida State might get back to being Florida State again.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And it's interesting, though. I've had some people ask me, like, how would you compare the Drake Maye hype train to Sam Howell? Remember when he was going to be a top pick? I personally see a difference between the two, but I'm curious if you do as well, like from an NFL perspective.
I think that Drake Maye has a lot more of the traits that you're looking for. He can throw the ball over the middle, not just to the exterior. He can hit all 3 levels, the shallow, the intermediate, and the deep. Obviously, he's going to have to get physically bigger. I think Drake Maye is more akin to a guy like Daniel Jones, if we're being quite honest, than to Sam Howell. And so I think that's the difference. But Sam Howell also, they had a lot of dudes on that football team. Like, they got a lot of guys that are making bread in the NFL right now. I'm curious. What you tell me? What you were saying was the difference.
I mean, I when I look at Drake Maye, I just think he has more of what NFL teams seem to prefer. Right. I do agree he needs to add some bulk because he still makes me nervous when he runs, just because I'm afraid he'll get seriously injured.
What happened at App State? Remember, he went airborne at App State.
That
was terrifying.
Just like he needs to learn how to protect himself a lot better and put some bulk on. But like. Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on that. I think he can make more of the throws. I think he has more natural talent than Sam. I do think Sam had a lot of like that competitive fire in his belly. Yes. And I think Drake has a lot of that too, but that was to me what set Sam apart, plus all the talent around him. And yeah, I don't know if it's going to be quite the same level if he can carry them the way he did last year.
Plus, here's the other thing about Drake Maye, and Michael Felder joining us here on Ovies and Gilio. Brownlow's hanging out with us today while Gilio's on vacation. So my curiosity is the change in offensive coordinator, right?
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
We kind of understood what Phil Longo was over 2 quarterbacks, much to some frustration that Carolina fans had with how they went about things. They bring in Chip Lindsay, and they're talking run. I'm sure Drake Maye is part of that run equation. So
hopefully not too big,
not too much though. So what is Chip Lindsay at offensive coordinator bringing to the table? It's going to be different from Phil Longo, Mike.
So I when I think about Chip Lindsay, I think about Auburn. And that's the biggest part I think about. So which means I think about Gus Malzahn and all that entire element there. And so, yes, the quarterback's going to be a part of it. But I'm trying to find the right.
Look, we've known Felder for a very, very long time. And I know Felder when he's like, I don't know. He's like, he wants to say something. Come on, let's go.
I've never liked the way that by Chip Lindsay, by extension of Gus Malzahn, I've never liked the way that they were with a true passing quarterback.
Okay.
Which is what I view Drake Maye as. I love the way that they operate with a guy that really has wheels. And there's a humongous difference between having wheels and being able to steal some yards when nobody's paying attention. And so I've never really loved that element to that of the way that they coach football. Like, I love the idea that Nick Marshall could take your team to a national championship game. That's insane. But at the same time, when you get someone like a Bo Nix or any of these guys, when you get those guys, they don't seem to be nearly as effective. And I think it's because you don't have that massive crutch of that quarterback run element. And so I'm curious to see what it looks like, because this is listen, Chip Lindsay, I want him to succeed, obviously. But
sure,
the key for me is I want to see him, what this looks like with the quarterback. Listen, this is the guy, he's a legacy kid. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of people forget about that. This is a legacy kid. Both parents played at UNC, right? Mm-hmm. Like it's in his blood. The school's in his blood. Being a star at that school is in his blood. Like, this is him. He's supposed to be really him for sure. And the next step for him it's not even winning an ACC championship. It's not going to a bowl game. The next step for him is getting ready for the NFL draft to see if he can challenge Caleb Williams. Mm-hmm. That's the next step for him. And I just wonder if Chip Lindsay is going to be able to get him there, because that's the next step for him from a personal standpoint, from a player standpoint, from a career standpoint. Okay. And I just want to see what that looks like. Chip Lindsay, I think overall, all the pieces, he's going to use those pieces tremendously.
Yeah.
And I think he's going to find ways to get guys open in space. He's going to find ways to create both in the intermediate and down the field. I think he's going to use the middle. They're going to run mesh. They're going to run they're going to run mesh. They're going to run all these classic concepts. They're going to run them and make it hit all those spots. But I want to see him take a next step in terms of being an NFL quarterback. And that's the question that I have.
Okay, got it. So offensive coordinator, quarterback pairings. Let's get this to NC State.
Yes.
Where Robert and I is coming in to help Dave Doran, I guess, reimagine the offense.
I was going to say do some offense.
Yeah,
is that too much?
Poke it with a stick. Let's do some offense.
So frustrating to watch them last year. Yes. I was just pulling my own hair out, and
You and I had that conversation a lot last year in the panic room, and I kept screaming. I'm like, this is how they want to operate. They want to suffocate you and try to get out with a 13-10 victory. And there were reasons for that. I think the wide receiver group didn't step up the way they thought it was going to step up. Nobody really emerged. There wasn't a lot of separation. And we also come to find out that, Devin Leary was a lot worse off than we thought before he transferred to Kentucky, and they had to go through 5 different quarterbacks. I actually think last season was a pretty good thing, all things considered. 5 different wins with 5 different QBs.
No,
right?
on the whole, for sure. The whole. Just in general, their offense was like, what are you doing?
So now they bring in Robert and Nye, and you bring in Brennan Armstrong. There was magic there at Virginia. Brennan Armstrong did not have that last year, and Anai is coming home to coach with him. So is this going to be a repeat of what we saw with Virginia the last time these two were paired, or is it going to be a little bit different? And how does MJ Morris fit into all this?
That was the question I was going to ask you.
Yeah,
where does MJ Morris fit?
I honestly do not know. That's going to be a story that develops once kickoff gets going, because I understand the Armstrong and Nye package deal and what NC State thought they had going into the year, but they do have to balance a talent that I'm assuming they believe in with MJ Morris.
Right, and it's interesting because does that look like packages for him? And packages, I hate packages.
Yeah.
I hate them.
I was gonna say I immediately was like, oh no.
Oh no, jeez. No, we don't need that.
There's a humongous difference between giving a kid a series and packages. Packages take away from you get limited practice time in college. So packages take away from your practice time.
Yeah.
Packages they change what your team is doing. Mm-hmm. Makes it difficult for offensive linemen, makes it difficult for the running backs, makes it difficult for pass protection. So I don't like packages. What I want to, if you're going to incorporate him into this offense, then have him do the third drive, have him play the second quarter, have him do that, have him be that part of the team. And you recognize that as the game goes, this is what we're doing. And if we have to bail on it, we bail on it. As far as Brennan Armstrong goes, I really if this was a conversation that we're having a year ago at this time,
yes,
we're all like, dude, this guy is a baller.
Yeah.
And then last year happens. And so now it's like, can he get back to 2 years ago? Can he get back to that? And I think that's the question. And how much is he going to run? Who is he going to throw to?
Yeah.
Right.
That's a big one.
And what does their run game look like? And I think that's a huge part of it because
by committee.
And he's going to be a part. That's another thing I hate is by committee.
Yeah. Well, that's what NC State is. They haven't had a guy emerge in a while, and I don't think this year's going to be any different.
And it's one of those things where I speak from a defensive standpoint, right?
Of course.
If there are guys that I know I have to worry about, like this is the way defense works. I don't know if people think about it this way, but every play, if you play a team and every play you got to go, that's where number 5 is. That's where number 13 is. But if they keep going in and out because there's no consistency and the offense isn't leaning on anybody, then I just get to play regular defense. And I don't overcompensate. I'm not worried about anything. Like there's nobody that's scaring me right now. This is fine. Okay, great. We're playing our base package. We're doing this. And guess what? Everybody knows their assignment because we already got this installed in spring. I know I got B gap. I know I got A gap. I know I got C. I know I'm out here outside. I know I got outside contain. I know I got all this stuff. But when you got a guy that's a dude that you can hand the ball off to, you're like, hey man, I'm gonna cheat it a little bit. I'm gonna change my alignment to make sure that I can help because I know he can't do it by himself. And that's where the space comes along when it comes to running the football, and that's where the space comes along when it comes to that quarterback run when he takes it out and goes. And that's the part that I'm looking at. You think about UNC, and we can go back to UNC. We can go back to when they had Javonte Williams and Michael Carter.
Yeah.
Teams are cheating that.
Yes,
especially when they were both in the game. You're cheating that. You cheat that. And then all of a sudden, Sam Howell pulls it and wow, he has 15 free yards.
Right.
How? Why? He's not fast. He just has them. And so I think that's going to be the interesting thing with Armstrong because when he was at Virginia, they established the run game very well. Mm-hmm. And they did it consistently. And then when he pulled, boom, let's go. So they've got to find a way to establish a run game. And if it's by committee, that doesn't make guys cheat. And I think I've been on a really long football journey, like over the last decade plus, and finding the things that you hate, finding the things that you like, finding the things that work. And a big part of it is you got to have somebody that you're scared of. You have to have someone that you're scared of.
Yeah, State doesn't have that.
But that's a huge problem.
Yeah.
If you don't have someone that you're scared of, it's a problem.
So this gets us to Duke.
Yeah, I'm concerned. I have concerns.
Well, they've got Riley Leonard was a surprise last year.
Mm-hmm.
In the game against North Carolina, I felt like Riley Leonard actually outplayed Drake Maye. And there were some unfortunate sequences for Duke that they end up coming out on the losing end of that. And Brownlow and I were actually talking about this. What's your working theory on Duke this upcoming season under Mike Elko?
I think that they could be better all around than they were last year and have a worse record, like maybe by a couple games even because of their schedule.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Their schedule is not forgiving at all.
No.
It's brutal.
No.
Their schedule is not forgiving. And so I agree with you, Brownlow. Like they could be better as a team.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that's, again, going back to me over my career. I'm finding things that I hate. And one of the things that I hate is when a team does make these incremental improvements.
Yeah.
But people don't recognize it because people only care about wins and losses.
Yeah, that sucks. I hate that as well. It's like what it shows
the
you
schedule
you're not
is so
watching.
important. It's such important context that a lot of times people just ignore. And even like when the games fall and where they're all of that stuff matters so much.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing. Like my guy, Stephen Hartzell, who I work with for Learfield, he is a schedule like fanatic. Like that's what he like swears up and down by schedule. He doesn't care. Like he doesn't go like deep dive too deep. He doesn't do that. He's like, I'm looking at the schedule. I know he knows who the guys are. He knows his stuff. But he's like, I'm looking at the schedule. And the schedule is the part that matters the most to him because he's like, I don't care how good Duke is. And we can run through it right now. They opened the season with Clemson. That's a nightmare to open this season with Clemson.
Is it though?
It's not. No. Yes.
To start the year when you don't know what you have all over the place with that team. Absolutely.
Well, I always feel like the beginning of the season is the place where the first game of the season is where you surprise people. And I'm not, and I guess we can close the conversation on this because you got us to Clemson because I think that.
Hang on.
What are we doing here?
What?
Look at the Clemson losses that we've seen. Have they come at the start of the year or have they come in the middle of the year when people know who they are?
Exactly.
Right. Okay.
Pitt, NC State, Wake. We're looking at these teams that push them or beat them. It's in the middle of the year.
But don't we kind of have a point? It's now with with Cade Klubnik.
Okay, so are we pretending though that Duke's going to beat them?
I mean, I don't think they're going to win. I just don't think it's as a bad of a, this is not Alabama coming to Wallace Wade.
Right. But this also isn't Georgia playing Clemson.
Okay.
Right.
All right. I got you.
Yeah.
I got you.
This isn't Georgia playing Clemson, right? Like this.
If you want to sell me on Dabo is back to trying to make points, right? Like the whole like, hey, you had your window. We didn't win it that 1 year.
Right.
And while we didn't make the college football playoff last year, we did remind the ACC, hey, that window was short. And you still couldn't beat us when we couldn't figure out our quarterback situation. Bingo. So now we do. He's gotten serious.
That's what I'm thinking.
They changed the offensive coordinator.
Yep.
And all that. He went, basically, Dabo did things he said he wouldn't do the year before.
Right.
And that tells me, okay, Dabo really is serious about winning. And that would be the angle.
He's not here to play with you. Like he's out. Listen, he's out here to go out and he's ready to crack some skulls. And so it's going to be interesting. But I'm going to just finish up on the Northwestern thing. That's another story for another day. They should win that football game, obviously.
Yes.
Yeah.
UConn is not an easy out, especially going to them. But you got Notre Dame, you got NC State, you got Florida State, you got Louisville, you got a Wake Forest team that I find to be remarkably fascinating, and I can't wait to find out more about them at the ACC kickoff. Yeah, you got UNC with Drake Maye, who obviously most people expect to be the second quarterback off the board. I don't know what you're going to get out of UVA, and then you got Pitt, and Pitt's always a tough out because Pitt's a team that, between Illinois, Maryland, and Pitt, those are three teams that consistently get dudes drafted. They have NFL caliber talent, not because they came in as NFL caliber talent, but because those coaching staffs build players that know what they're doing. Maryland had two safeties come off the board, or a safety and a corner come off the board this year. Illinois, in the last 2 seasons, they've had 5 guys out of the secondary get drafted. Pitt, wow. How many dudes come out of that back end for them because of Narduzzi? And so Pitt's not an easy out. I have no clue what Pitt's going to do offensively. I don't think anybody does. I don't think they do.
I don't think they do either. I was going to say.
But I know that they're going to line up. They're going to be in the right spot on defense, and that makes it tough because they might not win games, but they don't lose them. You got to beat them.
The only thing I know about Pitt and Pat Narduzzi is that he's probably going to be the most quotable at ACC kickoff in 2 weeks.
Yeah, he's probably going to be prickly.
Oh yeah, he's essentially a walking message board poster.
But he's a message board for his own offense. Like he doesn't even like them.
No, he clearly hates them. Just like
Michael Felder in the bleachers on Twitter, Stadium, Field 12 podcast as well. He always makes you a smarter college football fan, which I know is the goal, Felder.
You know it, man. All right.
You
guys take it easy.